Welcome to the assignment for examining performance task scoring guides. Remember, in the iPad, it's much easier if you have the Schoology app. So just make sure that you download Schoology from the App Store on your iPad and then start using the module from there. Once you're in Module 2, you'll want to make sure that you go to Assignment 4, Examining Performance Task Scoring. What you'll want to do, the purpose of this assignment, is to really take a look at the scoring guides for the performance tasks, and we're going to use the models that we looked at on the other performance tasks, the ones that we just did in the previous assignment. The first model that we're doing is going to look at the ELA performance task, and our purpose is going to be to make some observations about the scoring guide, and then to think about how the scoring guide is different from that right-wrong paradigm that we currently exist in when it comes to standardized testing. So the first thing that you'll want to do is click that link, Sample Items ELA. When you click on that link, you may see this particular screen. Don't be alarmed, there's an easy way to fix this. Down at the bottom of the screen in the bottom right corner, you're going to notice a little square with an arrow popping out of it. It's right here. Once you tap that arrow, you'll get this message box that says Open in Safari or Email Link. You want to tap Open in Safari. Once you tap Open in Safari, you may get this error message. Again, don't be alarmed, we can fix it. And you just fix it by turning your iPad to portrait orientation to landscape orientation rather than portrait orientation. So once you turn your iPad sideways, that little error message goes away and you can now move forward with the module. And again, just like before, we're going to tap the top menu that says View More English Language Arts Literacy Sample Items, and you get this blue box that comes up. What you'll want to do when you get this blue box that comes up is click whatever performance task you looked at in the previous assignment. So in the previous assignment, we looked at garden. So you'll want to make sure that you click garden or tap it with your finger so that you can bring up a copy of the performance task. When you tap garden, you should see a screen that looks just like this. But in order to get to the scoring guide, you'll need to scroll down several pages to page 8 or 10. So just keep scrolling past this until you get to the scoring guides. Once you scroll down to page 10, you should see this image, the grade 6 performance task scoring information. And this is where the scoring guide begins. The scoring guide is a few pages. What you'll want to do is read through the scoring guide. And again, just make observations about things that you notice about it. In our Schoology forum, we do have a note sheet to help you do that. So in order to download that note sheet or to take a look at it, you can go back into the Schoology forum and then there's a link that you can tap to click the note sheet. Once you click on note sheet, you should get a blank document that looks like this. Of course, this has some completed ideas in it. These are some models of responses you might write in the note sheet. And this is just to get you started. So when you download the note sheet, of course on an iPad you can't print it and you cannot type directly into it, but you could take this and kind of recreate it on a piece of paper. And as I said, what we're asking people to look for in the performance task are just make general observations and then also start thinking about how these scoring guides are different from how we traditionally assess students and mark things right or wrong or score students. So for example, if we look at the ELA item, one of the things that you'll notice is that the scoring guides are aligned to the intellectual work that students are asked to do within the task. So because the students are asked to provide evidence, then one of the scoring guides relates to evidence. So there's a direct alignment there. There are also rubrics for different skills. For example, there's one rubric that asks students to look for credibility of evidence and thoughtful, complete evidence. There's another rubric that actually looks at students' ability to use evidence and to integrate it into the context of their argument. So that students aren't just getting a holistic score, instead they're getting very targeted scores, and that helps them reflect on their learning. It also helps us as instructors to reflect on the learning that has occurred in class. If we're thinking about the differences from how that's traditionally scored, certainly we know in traditional standardized test items, you just have a right or wrong answer. So just the fact that there is a range of responses is a huge difference. Another difference is this idea that there are rubrics for different skills. Instead of getting one holistic score for a writing test, for example, students are getting scores based on different skills that they might be demonstrating, which is also a different way of thinking. That also may have implications for how we communicate students' progress in our classrooms. So those might be some things to think about as you move through this assignment. When you're going through math, you're going to do the same process. Go back to that Smarter Balanced website, pull the math performance task that we looked at in the previous assignment. Even if you don't teach math, it's important to know what students are going to have to know and be able to do, because many of the skills that students are exhibiting in the performance tasks are transferable skills. These are skills that we can reinforce in any of our classes. So it's important to know what those skills are so that we can figure out how we might be able to reinforce them in our own classrooms. Of course, in the math performance tasks, we looked at field trip, which was the 6-8 task. And if you look at if you make some observations about the scoring guide, you'll notice that there are multiple correct responses for different parts of the task. You'll also notice that there's a possibility for students to be awarded full or partial credit based on how much of the process they do correctly, and also based on whether or not they got the correct final answer, which is a complete shift from our current paradigm. Currently, students are scored on whether or not they get the answer right, especially on standardized tests. In your own classroom, that may be different. You may have a different stance. In that case, Smarter Balanced is actually aligning to what you currently do. In the current system, though, for standardized assessment, it's multiple choice, right or wrong. There's also not an expectation that students actually show how they arrive at an answer. Instead, it's just the answer. However, with Smarter Balanced and the way that students are scored, there is an expectation that students' process is part of that score. So that's something that completely shifts our thinking around how students are scored on these types of exams. That also has implications for us in our classrooms and in our daily work. So those are all things to be thinking about and writing down. When you have an opportunity to look at both the performance task for ELA and math and take some notes, then you can actually continue in the discussion for this particular assignment. Once you're ready to go back into the discussion, you'll want to go back to the Schoology course in Common Core and look at assignment 14 and tap on assignment 14 discussion. Once you do that, you'll see an image that looks like this. You'll see a couple of discussion questions that you can respond to. And what you're going to do to add your thoughts to the discussion is to just tap that button right there that says discussion. Once you tap on that discussion bit, you'll see an empty screen come up, or you'll see other people's comments come up. And then what you're going to do is tap on this plus sign here. When you tap on the plus sign, this little dialog box emerges, and you can use this dialog box to type in your comment. In order to add your comment to the discussion, what you're going to do is just click create, and once you click create, you've added your discussion to the forum, and you can have this conversation with your colleagues online. You can also have this conversation with your colleagues on your site as well if you're working in learning teams or if you're doing this as part of your site professional development. Thank you so much, and hope you've enjoyed looking at scoring guides for performance tasks.